Elvis. So a couple of weeks ago, we had Christopher Timms last week, which was awesome. Did everybody get to see him? He's a very awesome guy. I like him a lot. I love him, actually. He's a great guy. But the week before that, I did Everybody's a Poet, which was a view of how we see ourselves. Today is a little bit more about how we see others and how we see the world. So many of you may be familiar with the story of the 5 blind men. And it goes kind of like this. 5 blind men came upon an elephant one day. And they had never seen one before. So they started moving about it. And one of them grabbed a leg. And he said, "Oh, an elephant's a tree." And the second blind man said, no, it's not," because he had grabbed the tusk. And he said, "It's a spear, you're wrong." The third blind man was in the front. And he grabbed the trunk of the elephant. He said, "You're both wrong. It's a hose. An elephant is definitely a hose." On the other side of the elephant, there was another blind man, and he grabbed the ear. He's like, "None of you guys got this right. The elephant is a fan." Well, the fifth blind man was in the back of the elephant. He was feeling the tail. He goes, "All of you got it wrong. The elephant's a rope." So meanwhile, all these blind men are feeling different parts of the elephant, and the elephant is just sitting there being an elephant. And this story's been told many different times through many different cultures. And it's synonymous of us walking in the dark and the feeling that we do and the perceiving that we do when we think we see something. Now, there's a lot of times that we do this in our own personal lives. We're all victim of this, instead of saying guilty of this, because at any given moment, we're only being aware of what is in front of us and what's going on with us in the moment. We walk around in the dark, even with our eyes open. We have these wonderful rational brains that scan constantly everything around us. What if the elephant, what if they said, "I think this elephant's a monkey"? Did the elephant then have to become a monkey? How many times have people in your life said, "Well, I see you as," and fill in the blank. Do you then become that? Sometimes we try to. We try to become what people think they see in us. Or we try to conform everybody else to what we think we see in them. How many different times have we had, if you see it in a movie or if you watch the news and if you've ever been in a court case or watched a court case, and you see 5 different witnesses that saw the same event and they all have a different testimony. Because everybody is seeing from a different perspective. Everybody is seeing from the perspective of where they are at in that moment. We have these 2 eyes in the front of our bodies, which are wonderful scanners. They're there to perceive and bring in the information that we see visually. So we're going to do a little exercise today. I want everybody to just simply put their hands on their laps. And then look at the person beside you. If there's no one beside you, and you have to do 3s, and turn around and look at each other. And I want you 2 can look at each other. You 2 can look at each other. Oh, Kim just lost her scanner. And then, but hands on your laps, no talking. I want you to look this person up and down, head to toe. No words. No words. No words. No touching. Hands on your lap. Follow me on this one, folks. I know it's a difficult, thank goodness it's not a big group. So breathe and just look at them, analyzing all the facts that you see, head to toe, from their hair to their toes, to their knees, every single thing about them. Just look at them. This isn't about connecting and looking in their eyes. This is about looking at all the different things that you see on them. Head to toe, scan them. I want you to scan every single thing about them. Use your analytical brain. Use these 2 scanners to sit there and notice every single thing about their physicality, about what they're wearing, about their hair. No words, folks. This is a silent exercise, please. And just look. And I know this may be dorky and funny, and that's okay. We'll get past that part. But I invite us to do this without talking and to challenge yourself to just press through this moment and just scan them. Look at their feet, look at their shoes, look at their glasses, look at their hair, earrings, whatever they got on. Just look at this human being. And now turn and look forward. Just breathe for a second. Now close your eyes. Can you remember everything they were wearing? Can you see the lines of their face, the color of their hair, the nuances? Did somebody need a shave? Well, there's only one male in the room besides me. And, well, there's two guys over there. Although somebody may need a shave even if they're female, whatever. What did your eyes see? Now I want you to invite, keeping your eyes closed, I invite you guys to look in, and this is your awareness. I know we're a goofy group of people, but as we do these things, our eyes are taking in input and then surmising the situation. Did judgments come up? Did you have facts come in? Well, I know what they are, and they need this, and their color looks bleak, or this or that. Just be aware of this. You can open your eyes again and scan me. I'm used to being scanned. This is about awareness of what we do to each other when we think we see. I don't need any shouts out. And if you want to, you may. But did you notice any judgment came up in your scan, even though it was analytical? Even if the judgment was they were pretty, that's a judgment. All these things are different things that come up in us. We look at people, we think they are something that our minds create them to be. We look around this lifetime and we think that there's a lot of things that are the way we perceive them to be. I've said before that I used to be in jewelry, and I spent 12 years working with diamonds. And most diamonds in our current day and age, although there's so many different signature cuts out there nowadays, but most diamonds have 58 facets on them. That's 58 mirrored reflections that will refract the light and reflect it back to you. I will surmise and go out on a limb and say that when we look at people with all the different things and notions that we go inside, that we have a lot more than that. Different perspectives of who we think they are, how we see them, how we perceive them, what we think they should be. Back to the elephant. Does an elephant be anything but an elephant? Has anybody ever told an elephant, be a monkey, and had that elephant go, I think I should be a monkey? But so many times in our lives when people see us a certain way and we feel that, we can tell that, we start to change who we are inside by virtue of how others see us and by virtue of what we're seeing in others. We're going to talk about how others see us next week. This is more about how you see others. But all those different things that you've seen have sometimes made us judge. So I want you to also imagine something for one moment. Imagine now that you lived in that other person's body that you just scanned, that you were them, and that they knew, or that you knew, every single thought that you just had while scanning. Would you feel warm and fuzzy? Would you feel judged? This is never a place to beat yourself up. This is a place of awareness and ownership and understanding what happens when information comes in our eyes. As the story of the blind man goes, the elephant got up and moved around. And when it sat back down again, all the different parts were in a different place. So the first blind man who thought he was holding the leg, or thought it was a tree, was now touching something else. And he thought, oh, well, now, you're right, it is a spear. And all these different blind men started feeling different parts. They had a different perspective of the elephant and now declared it to be something else. But it was still just an elephant. All the different things that we do, that we change our minds and go, oh, you're right. Now that you turn the light on, I can see that that was that. And it's still not necessarily that. All the different things that we see in our lives also comes from a place of where we're at. Talked a couple weeks ago back into Love Yourself that in the laws of deliberate creation, that one of the most important aspects of creating in our lives is how we feel. One of the most important aspects in creating relationships in our lives and how we see others is how we feel. If I'm feeling yucky inside, I may perceive you completely differently than if I'm feeling wonderful. If I'm feeling flustered in life or feeling adversity in life, I may look at the world and see nothing but crap. I've used the example before that on one side of the tree, on one side of the road of life, or literally the highway, there's roadkill. On the other side, there's a meadow. and you're driving with someone, they're pointing out every single dead raccoon or dead possum. Now, save people like Becky and I that like to pick up roadkill because we consider it medicine, and furs and owls and feathers and things. We don't take it home and make, it's not the Beverly Hillbillies where we make soup out of it. But it's knowing that it's how we perceive things at any given moment that's going to really make the difference in us. Because there's always going to be roadkill, and there's always going to be a meadow. What do you want to put your attention on? And sometimes we put our attention on the most negative things in our reality. If you looked at somebody and you saw their wrinkle and thought, well, they have a wrinkle there, be as it may, that was your thought. It was a judgment. So now I want to do another experiment. I want us to do the same thing. So if you want to regroup or look at different people, that's fine. So move about the place. I know so many people here, it's going to take forever. But this time, I would like you to put your hands on your heart and look at each other and ask yourself to let me see with the eyes of love. And to just look at them with pure, unconditional love. With agape. It was so wonderful that Mel picked that song today. Mel is always completely in tune with me in my talks, whether we even talk about what the talks are going to be about. And to just simply sit there and love what you're seeing. Does it feel different than the first time we just simply scanned with our rational minds? And I know I have a loving group of unconditional people. We've still got two goofballs over here. And two goofballs. And everybody looks. That was awesome. And for the people that are at home watching us, I invite you to do this with your partner, or if you want to just go in the mirror and look at yourself and do the same exercise and see the different things that you scanned rationally, and then when you look in your heart space, with your heart space. So how does this one feel? Does this feel different than before? And we can come back to us in the room and scan me again. We have hug fest going on. So for the airy-fairy part of me, the guy who talks of energy, because Sue made a post the other day which was like right up my alley, making fun of those people who always talk about energy and frequency and this and that. And energy is a real thing too. And we can see it in each other when we see love. You can see it ripple in it. And everybody sees it differently. Maybe you see it with your heart. Maybe you see it with your hands. Maybe you see it with your ears. You feel it. You hear it. But it's something that shifts the energy in the room. It shifts how we feel when we walk into a space. When we're looking with the eyes of love. When we're looking with our heart. Christopher Timms talked about this last week in a different way. He was saying sometimes we see and we look with our eyes. It's like he knew what I was going to be talking about the next week, and we hadn't talked either because I already had written this talk. That when we see with our heart, everything shifts. The elephant gets to be just an elephant. It doesn't have to be anything else that we make of it. All the times that we look into each other's eyes and say, I love you, and in the meantime we're saying, but I really think you should fill in the blank. But when we see here and just hold here and just look with the eyes of our heart, we don't care what they are. We just love them for who they are. We just allow them to be them. To be a monkey, to be an elephant, to be a big hairy Italian guy with flip-flops instead of dress shoes, or dress shoes instead of flip-flops. Or however each one of us shows up in life, to allow that person to just show up who they are and love them and look at them with our eyes and know that it's our heart that's seeing them and our eyes are just receiving this information that is really just all scientific. Our eyeballs are scientific. It's a medical thing. It's hooked to an optic nerve. It goes into the brain receptors, and I haven't done enough of the studying to give you all the different parts that are in between. The cornea and the retina and all this. Because if something happens to our eyes, well, a lot of us in this room have glasses. Right now you're blurry, but I still see you. And I still see with my heart, and I see the love. And when I forget to look here, I get flustered in life with people. I look at the news sometimes, I'm like, God, why do you have me in this disgusting world? And then I remember that it's a beautiful world because there's beautiful hearts in it. That all I had to do was shift my perception. All I had to do was come back down here and quit analyzing everything with the scanners that God put in front of me just so I didn't bump into the wall all the time. And to take in the beauty of life and to take in all the wonders of life. I went to the river the other day and I was looking at the cape and I was thinking, hey, Becky's over there, and I kind of waved to her because I saw the BAB building where she's at. But one of the things that we have in Florida that is so majestic is our panoramic skies and the way the clouds are such a low ceiling. And it was such a beautiful day, and I went there to clear my head because I was feeling yucky. And thank goodness for the wonders of what I saw, because it shifted me, and it shifted me back out of my brain, stuck in my head, which we all get sometimes, back into my heart space, and just allowed me to see. Now, the moment I showed up there, the set was already the same. The shift was in me. At any given moment, we're going to go around in any different neighborhood, any nature, anywhere in this world. And as we show up, we're going to look and see a certain set of things, and then that shift may happen. I was talking to Becca the other day, and we talked about Walmart's a good barometer for that, to let you know where you're at. Am I seeing the people? Am I flustered and disgusted and frustrated with everybody? Or am I just seeing them as other human beings that are struggling along the way, loving along the way, being goofy, being silly, being hurt, being sad, maybe in grief? What do I know of their story? A long time ago, I was working I managed convenience stores too. And some guy came in, and he asked me for a pack of cigarettes, and I grabbed a pack of cigarettes, I put it on the counter, and apparently I had the wrong pack of cigarettes. And he blasted me. He said, no, I said Marlboro Lights or whatever. And I just kind of like, I'm sorry, sir. Was real ginger about it, but I wasn't a jerk back to him. I'm just like, all right, obviously he's dealing with something. It was long before I knew the word processing. And he gets out to his car, and I'm looking at him, and I don't know what's going on in his world. He puts his head on the steering wheel, looks back up, comes back in the store and apologizes to me. He says, I'm sorry. I'm on my way to my wife's funeral. We have an opportunity every moment of our lives to see what's before us and let it go. To not react to the people's behavior, to the situations, to even the climate of the world. We do our prayer for country every week, and some of the places are really having serious issues. Some, there's a lot of violence, and we see these things and we're like, I would never want to go there. And we may not want to physically go there, but we can go there in our heart. That's what our prayer into the tithe and our prayer into the country every may peace prevail in fill in the blank. And it will prevail with each other when we see with the eyes of the heart, when we see with love. We can look into each other's eyes and know that whatever's showing up in front of me, I can have agape love for. I can have total unconditional understanding, or maybe not complete understanding of who you are, but acceptance of who you are, without ever having to let these scanners fill in the blanks. Our eyes connected to our brain will create scenarios that don't even exist. When people have come up to me and said, I see you as a fill in the blank, I'm like, what are you talking about? I've never been that way. That's not who I am. What, is there a sign on me that says this? We used to do an exercise in the workshop when we would make people look in the mirror and say 3 different things. I saw, I thought, and then I felt. And a lot of times people would come back and go, well, I saw an old man in the mirror. And we would say, well, unless you took a picture of an old man and taped it to the mirror, that's not what you saw. That's a thought. And so many times in our lives, our sight and our thoughts get instantaneously connected. And that's what we're talking about here. To get out of our heads with what we see and what we think we see. And to just breathe back into it. Go into our heart space. Say, okay, selves. I'm obviously processing something in the midst of something. Got stuff on my back, in my head, stuck somewhere. And I'm seeing, remember back into the 4 agreements, that fog, the smoky mirror, and the mirror, the reflection back I'm seeing, has got a lot of smoke in the way. Slightly cloudy with a part chance of sunlight later. And that sunlight comes back to us the nanosecond we go back to our heart. The nanosecond we can just close our eyes, take a deep breath, make a sound, not make a sound, it's your choice, but breath, movement, and sound are keys to the universe, and you are the universe. And start over. Reboot. You're allowed to reboot as many times a day as you need to or choose to. There is no rule. It's like, well, it's 3 o'clock, I've rebooted 5, I guess I'm done today. Reboot again, and again, and again, and again. How many times I've found myself stuck in my head that I had to shake it off? There's all kinds of different tricks. Christopher taught us some last week about closing your eyes 15, 20 seconds a day, seeing it, hearing it, being with yourself. We're all already with ourselves all the time anyway. Sometimes some of us don't even want to be with ourselves. And then it's going to affect how we're seeing other people and seeing the world. So I invite us all this week, and for the rest of our lives, to simply let these eyes receive the signal, the scientific aspect of them. So I'm going to ask that we all close our eyes one more time. If you choose to hold hands with the people beside you, I'm going to close with just a little prayer. Spirit, we ask that you always let us see the us in you and the you in us. And as we go about each day, that we open our eyes from our heart, that we see with our heart, we love with our heart, and we see what's before us, not by virtue of what we judge, but from that unconditional loving, and just allow the beauty of their wonder to be received through our eyes. To let the majesty of all this earth and all the different sights that you have provided for us and that we have provided for ourselves, to seep into ourselves, to be processed by this lovely brain and felt by the wonder of our heart and the wonder of our soul, wonder of our being, and the wonder of our love. May we always remember that we perceive how we feel, and that our biggest goal is to feel good and to feel love and to feel you. So as each day we walk upon the earth and we open our eyes and see something before us, we know that is simply us to help us navigate this world. And for us that have lost our sight, we pray that they have always be able to see with their hearts and be able to navigate this world with the assistance of their brothers and sisters to help them move about the lands without getting hurt, and know that they too may see with the eyes of their heart. Thank you.
One day, with 5 blind men following, we came upon an elephant just resting in a glade. What have we here? The blind men cried, for none had ever seen one. An elephant was my reply, just sitting in the shade. An elephant, I did explain, big and friendly, gray and slow. An elephant does not forget and sprays things with its nose. Before I could continue on, the 5 blind men had found it, and moving with their hands and ears had made their way around it. First blind man had grabbed its leg, and proudly he concluded, an elephant is like a tree, it's strong and firm and rooted. The second blind man said, hold on, it's not what I have here. And he was feeling round the tusk and called the beast a spear. Third blind man was in the front, clinging to a trunkly nose. It's neither spear nor tree, he said, an elephant's a hose. Or the other other four had found. The first said, wait, what was a tree now? Feels much more like a spear. The second said, that's what I thought, but now a hose is here. The third, who thought he held the hose, was fondling now a fan, which incidentally was a rope now to the fourth blind man. The fifth blind man, who'd held the tail, was now beside a leg, you see. So what he thought had been a rope was suddenly a tree. And all at once the five blind men began to laugh and shout, realized that each was right and joyfully stomped about. Sweetly sang is all these things and much, much more, the sum of which is greater than the parts we felt before. Just depends on where you stand. You sat and then they turned to thank the gentle giant for the lesson they had learned. Depends on where you stand.